Summer Sweetheart, Chapter 23. Carl was angry and let out a gloomy roar. Get out! Alice outside the door was stunned for a moment, then turned and left. After a while, Carl's mood had calmed down. Smith knocked on the door and came in, holding a stack of documents in his hand. As if thinking of something, Carl raised his head and asked him, "Is Alisa back?" Smith silently put the materials in his hand on the desk and cleared his throat and said, "Madam has been back for a while and it seems that she has just come to find you." Only then did Carl remember that a woman has indeed knocked on the door to find him. And the only woman living in this villa is Alisa. Did she take the initiative to find him? Is it because the news on the internet is not a soothing one, so she wanted to come to him? A trace of interest flashed in Carl's dark eyes. He leaned back in the chair and said, "Call her here." When he went out at night, it didn't take long to bring Alisa over. Alisa pushed the door in and found that Carl was still sitting on the boss chair behind the desk at last time, and the boss chair turned back to her. She could only see his arms on the armrest and the head emerging from the back of the chair. She could not see anything else. Carl was the first to ask her, "What are you looking for?" Shouldn't she ask him this? Before she came to him, he just let her go, and now he calls her over just to ask her what's the matter. Alisa didn't shy away and directly explained her intention. "I want to move out." After she finished speaking, seeing Carl did not respond, she explained, "I will be going to work soon. It is very inconvenient to live here and go to work." Her explanation received a concise response from the man. Oh, is this promise or not?" Carl felt very upset at this moment. The ugly woman said sincerely yesterday that she didn't mind him. No, but today she wanted to move out of the villa. Dream. Seeing that he hasn't spoken for a while, Alisa said with some confusion, Carl interrupted her coldly. "Do you think this is a vegetable market? You can come in and go out as you like." Alisa heard the anger in his tone. She didn't quite understand why did she provoke him. "Forget it, don't move if you don't move." After another thought, she felt that her request to move out might have stimulated him. After all, people with physical defects like Carl are very sensitive in their hearts and are easily stimulated. Carl turned around and threw the file that he hadn't put back on his desk before. Seeing his reaction, Smith also felt very inexplicable. The boss has always been inexplicably angry recently. After a long while, Carl seemed to have thought of something and asked Smith aloud, "I remember Alisa's information stated that she graduated from a film academy." Smith: "Yes, madam is studying drama, film and television literature." A quick smile flashed across Carl's face, with the beast inevitable gain for the little prey, and said faintly, "In other words, her job is a screenwriter." Smith was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Everyone thinks that Carl is an impotent cripple, but no one knows that Carl has been the boss of the largest entertainment group in the country these years. However, in just 8 years, Adampic has become the leader in the film and television industry. Adampic is a company that all film and television practitioners want to join. If Alisa really wants to become a famous screenwriter, she will definitely give Adampic a resume. Smith understood the deep meaning of Carl's words and nodded. "I will do it now." Alisa has submitted her resume to almost all the film and television companies in Rostenville. However, she deliberately skipped Adampic. As for the reason, because the film and television companies signed by Tina and Adampic are deadly opponents. Moreover, she will definitely not be hired. Before waiting for the interview news, she had to deal with the news that Isabel had made. She brewed for a while before dialing Isabel's phone. "What's the matter? Let's talk about it." Isabel's voice was still proud and domineering. Alisa pinched her nose. Her nasal voice seemed to cry, "Sister, I'm sorry. Don't be angry with me. Shall we come out to meet? Don't hurt my mother. You let me out? I will come out. What do you think you are? Alisa understood Isabel. She whispered, Please speak louder, inaudible. I beg you. Okay. Alisa put down the phone. Her eyes were cold. Isabel, you must be very proud now, right? But soon you won't be proud. Before Tina gave her a few marketing accounts contact information, there were also a few paparazzi contact information. The news that she robbed Isabel's fiancé is still very popular now, and some people are willing to take good news. She picked one of the paparazzi's contacts based on her feelings, sent the address and time, and went out for the appointment. Alisa went out on foot, and then Smith went to the study to tell Carl, Madam is out. Carl raised his head to look at him. The expression in his indifferent eyes meant, What does this happen to do with me? Although he was used to seeing Carl's cold eyes, he still swallowed a little bit timidly. I guess that the wife's going out may be related to Isabel. He was a little curious about how the wife would deal with Isabel. He believed that the boss was in the same mood as him. Who knows? Carl just responded lightly, Oh. Smith wondered in a daze, could he guess wrong? The next moment, Carl stood up, took his coat, and walked out. I haven't seen the eldest brother for a long time. I'll go find him for a meal. He remembered that if he was right, Master had not returned from abroad. The boss should find a decent excuse. Even though Carl's excuse was so clumsy, Smith did not dare to break him. Carl drove along with Alisa to a restaurant. He sat in the car and watched Alisa go in for 20 minutes before Isabel arrived. She was late. Then another man dressed in ordinary but behaving suspiciously also entered the restaurant. As big boss behind the entertainment company, Carl concluded at a glance that the man who followed was a paparazzi. It's not in vain that he waited so long in the car. It seems that there will be a good show to watch. Chapter 24. In the restaurant, Isabel put her back on the dining table and raised her chin proudly to look at Alisa. If you have something to say it now. I'll have a date with Norris later. As she spoke, she raised her hands and admired her newly made nails. She glanced at Alisa inadvertently. She was really dressed like a day for 10 years. Plain long quilted jacket, sallow skin, black rimmed glasses and ugly eyes. A woman like this still wanted to steal a man from her. Only those fools on the internet will believe it. Alisa lowered her eyes, holding the water glass, rubbing her hands on the wall of the cup helplessly, but from the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a man in ordinary clothes sitting down at the table behind. She calmly set out the edited text message, It's time to start. She did this series of actions extremely carefully, so Isabel did not notice. Alisa carefully looked up at Isabel and said, I have already apologized on Twitter. Don't embarrass my mother. She covered and looked the same as before. Isabel snorted coldly, and she knew how could Alisa become smarter from childhood to stupid at this age. It's okay for Rachel not to be embarrassed. I only have one condition. Isabel embraced her arms. Her face was a smug smile. What conditions? Alisa's voice was delighted and anxious. Fool, I really don't know why you care about Rachel so much. She has never treated you as a daughter. Alisa's hands on her legs gradually tightened, her face pale, and she said bitterly, Anyway, she is my mother. Even if she does it again, she knows that she is only for you, and begged me to marry Carl, and I will agree to. Isabel didn't like Alisa's weak and incompetent appearance. When she was a child, Alisa studied better than her and looked more beautiful than her. She hated this sister very much. Then Alisa suddenly became stupid and ugly, and she hated this sister even more. Having a sister like Alisa made her feel ashamed. But fortunately, Alisa is obedient like a dog and can be used by her at will. Isabel smiled, her tone soft but very vicious. You are as cheap as your mother. A mockery flashed in Elisa's eyes. Rachel had been married to Hunt's house for more than 20 years and she was kind to Isabel. In the end, not only did Isabel not accept Rachel's affection, she scolded her and called her cheap. You can say anything you like, but please don't say that to my mother. She is sincere to you. Elisa pretended to be sad and whispered to her. How could Isabel hear Elisa's word? She glanced at her and said loudly, Shut up. You don't need to worry about my business. Now you only need to do one thing, divorce Carl. Divorce? Elisa's eyes widened in shock. This shock is half pretend and half true. Without Isabel's word, Elisa had already guessed her purpose. Although the Adams family didn't care who married Carl, she certainly couldn't tolerate Elisa's rebellion because she was still an ugly and stupid woman who couldn't make it to the table. She asked for a divorce for Carl, which was clearly beating Adams family. The Adams family will never let her go. Isabel's move is really ruthless. She directly drew Adam's attention to Elisa and let the Hunts family deal with Elisa to vent their hatred. In this way, her own sense of presence in the Hunts family is greatly enhanced. If you lower it, you can live with Norris without any pressure. Isabel seemed to be inadvertently plucked the hair near the ear, and a pink trace appeared on her white neck. As long as I do this, I won't be embarrassed by Rachel. Elisa has never eaten pork and has seen pigs running. The red mark on Isabel's neck was obviously a hickey. Is this showing off her? Elisa picked up the cup and took a sip of water, really feeling a bit blocked. What she was sad about, what was Norris and Isabel were together. What she was sad about, what was she had a crush on the man who had crushed for so many years, but that was all. However, the Adams family won't agree to the divorce between Carl and me. Even if the divorce is really going to happen, Carl can only ask for it. That's your business. I advise you it's best to be obedient as a dog. Otherwise, I will let you and your mother have no good days to eat. Isabel really didn't have the patience to talk to Elisa anymore. Took out the mirror to put the lipstick and then dialed the phone and yelled softly, Church! Elisa's complexion stiffened. Her response made Isabel very satisfied. Although Elisa was not a threat to her, she still felt a sense of accomplishment when she looked at Elisa's pitiful look like a falling dog. Through the window, Elisa watched Isabel drive away, then turned to glance at the dining table behind. The man calmly shook the phone in his hand. Elisa lowered her head and the phone displayed a new text message reminder. I'll go back and copy the video and send it to you. Elisa replied, Thank you. Putting down the phone, she slowly ate the cold food on the table. She really didn't know how Isabel became like this. When she was a child, she actually liked Isabel very much. Isabel looks good and children like beautiful young ladies, so she always follows Isabel. However, Isabel seemed to be heartless. For more than 20 years, Rachel has taken her heart and lungs to her, and Isabel could scold her and call her cheap, not to mention Elisa, who had always been unable to see her. She thought that Isabel had at least some affection for Rachel, but Elisa felt a little congested and the cold food was not delicious, so she got up and left. Carl came out of the box on the other side and intercepted the paparazzi at the door. When the paparazzi saw Carl's tall and magnificent and extraordinary temperament, he felt a little anxious. What are you doing? Let me see. Carl's gaze fell on his bag in a cold tone. I don't understand what you are talking about. This is the first-hand news he has photographed. It will be tomorrow's headline, of course. He will not show it to others casually. Really? Do you believe it or not that I can make you unable to stay in Rostenville and the entire entertainment industry? Carl's expression remained unchanged, his voice calm and without emotion. Only then Did the paparazzi discover that the man in front of him was not only handsome and indifferent, but the suit on his body was haute couture? At first glance, he was rich or expensive. What's more, the powerful aura and oppressiveness that he exudes, it consciously make people want to surrender. He didn't doubt the authenticity of Carl's words, so he honestly showed Carl the video. The picture and voice were very clear, and he listened to the conversation between the two women without fail.